What if I told you a late speeding penalty decided today's Cup Series race at Talladega? Just not the way you'd think. Let's break down all the Cup Series action from Talladega today. Welcome to the Breaking Bob channel. Hope y'all are doing well this Sunday night. Post Talladega action. If you were down at the track, hopefully you fully recovered from Saturday night at Talladega Boulevard. I've heard that's a marathon of itself, but today we're talking about the on-track action. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Always talking NASCAR and motorsports on a daily basis. My thoughts from yesterday's action at Talladega, the ARCA and Xfinity races are on the channel. If you missed that, go ahead and check that out. Yes, it is heavily involving Cletus McFarland. He was just a big story this weekend, whether you like it or not. He's an enigma and honestly pretty good for NASCAR in the sport. So just embrace it because it sounds like he's going to be here moving forward for the foreseeable future, potentially even in the Xfinity series. But enough about him. We've talked about him enough this weekend. It's the Cup Series Sunday, time to shine, the main show. In theory, the Jacklings 500 this weekend at Talladega. And a weird ending, just a very, very strange ending there. Austin Cindric, spoiler alert, your winner today for Team Penske, the number 2 car, finally finds himself back into victory lane on a drafting style track for the first time since the very first next-gen race in 2022. His very first Cup Series race, the Daytona 500. He did win last year at Gateway as well. I got to see that in person. That was just a wild ending. There were Ryan Blaney running out of fuel on the last lap. But Austin Cindric, listen, you can say what you want about this race. You can't take it away from Austin Cindric that his consistency has been probably number 1, number 2, number 3, one of the most consistent drivers in the next-gen era on these drafting style tracks. So for him to get his second win on this style of a race, very, very rewarding, very fitting. And a guy that has been so close so many times in the last couple of years since that Daytona win. Glad to see him get back into victory and rewarded for the laps led, the speed that Penske has shown in that 2 car the last few years at these tracks. Beats out fellow Ford Ryan Preece of the RFK side. Thanks to lap traffic, it was a very strange ending there. It was a green flag finish. We got what we wanted after our qualms yesterday at the Xfinity race. NASCAR fans have been begging for one of these drafting style tracks to go green at the end, and we did get that. Just a weird ending where lap traffic, Kyle Busch and Josh Berry, who were serving a speeding penalty on their late pit road cycle there, they were right in front of the field. They were catching him, and they caught him right before the start-finish line, and it gave just enough of a drag, a little bit of a draft to that bottom row that Austin Cindric was leading just to get by Ryan Preece. Otherwise, that 60 car might have been in victory lane. But once again, Ryan Preece finds another way to be unjusted on these big tracks. This time, at least, he's able to keep all 4 tires on the ground, at least. So, some small victories there, I guess. But you could tell Preece was frustrated. He knows how close he was, and maybe not in the same camp as Jeb Burton yesterday, but similar, where he says we don't have this opportunity a ton, and as drivers, we're out there to win, not get points. We're out there to win, and that's ultimately what this era of Cup Series racing is: the win and you're in. Playoff mentality. So frustrating for the 60 team, but again, going back to Austin Cindric, the way it was involving lap traffic there, I'm not sure if Kyle Busch and Josh Berry had nowhere to go, if that was just par for the course, if they weren't sure the leaders were coming up on him that fast. They were catching him 2-3 seconds a lap there at that speed, at that rate. So it was just a very strange ending to this. But once again, NASCAR fans wanted a green flag ending to these style tracks. You got it. So I see the discourse on social media already. They're upset about it. They're upset about the boring nature of the race, and I do get it. Fuel save, pit strategy. It's not the carnage, the wild maneuvers that we're used to seeing, and even in the Xfinity race yesterday. But at this point, this is the next gen era. It's the same thing with Bristol a couple of weeks ago, where fans are really frustrated about the short track racing. This next gen car just doesn't really allow this drafting style track to really, you can't maneuver, you can't generate runs like you were able to see in previous style cars. For whatever reason, they're not able to, and you tie that in with the fuel strategy, the fuel saving that you've seen in big races like the Indy 500 as well. I think that's just the name of the game, unfortunately, in motorsports, until they figure out a way to either get these tanks to the size that we can get it to a full stage, or they shorten the stages to have it just a full pit stretch. But what's the point in that then? We're not having to do pit cycles there, and You saw that crash in the early part of stage one when the Fords were trying to pit. These drivers clearly don't have that much experience, or at least the reps. I shouldn't say experience. These drivers don't have the reps as far as green flag pit stops, especially at these drafting style tracks. So I don't know what the answer is for that, but I'll be honest with you. I didn't think the race was that bad, all things considered. I do like a good strategy race in moderation. Don't get me wrong. I don't want this for every single race, but I did find it fascinating to think, okay, these teams are going, these manufacturers, Toyota did something different. The way that the first cycle, they raced out to the lead with all their cars and they kind of went full throttle for a minute just to get the track position. They ended up getting it back in stage two by not waiting, or they got it back in stage two by pitting right before the end of the stage. That way they would have to be able to, or they were able to stay out and get that track position to start stage three. They're trying something different here, at least, instead of every other team just, pitting a couple different laps apart, 6, 7, 8 cars at a time. Toyota tried something different, and they have to with the number of teams that they have compared to someone like Ford, for instance, who really, I think that each time we come to a super speedway, we really expect them to pit in tandem and in sync and strengthen numbers. And this was just another case of that. But I didn't hate the strategy of this race. I'll be honest with you. I know that might be a very unpopular opinion. It is what it is. But even Ross Chastain single-handedly made sure Toyota did not win this race today. And I'll tell you how. If you missed it late in stage three, when the Toyotas had done that pit strategy and they were coming back and they were racing up to catch the other cars that had pitted, Ross Chastain threw a reckless block, a stage three all or nothing block that took Denny Hamlin a second to figure out what he wanted to do. He had to check up, slowed all those Toyotas down. Not a single one of them could get past 20th at that point, all because Ross Chastain slowed up their momentum and stuck them in the back of the whole pack then for the final green flag run there. Again, it's a lottery. I don't want to see it for every race. I want to be able to see drivers with their talents displayed. But for a one-off race, I was entertained by this. Again, I understand that's probably a very, very unpopular opinion, maybe even a hot take. But regardless, let me know your thoughts down below about what you think about the fuel-saving strategy and what we can do to fix it moving forward. 4 total cautions today, 2 for stage breaks, 2 for incident. Let's get into how it happened. The first one, of course, I talked about how it was those Fords on the first green flag pit cycle of stage one. Ryan Blaney and Brad Keselowski, the 2 main victims. Kyle Busch did get spun as well, knocked his steering loose for a little bit, but he was able to recover. We'll get into him in a little bit. But Brad Keselowski and Ryan Blaney, 2 guys that are very, very strong at these style tracks, favorites coming into this weekend, no less, killed before the stage even ended there. Frustrating, no less, for Brad Keselowski, especially because 31st in points coming into this weekend. He needs at least some runs just to get some confidence for this 6 team. And I think we're already at the point now where it's must-win territory to make the playoffs. I think we've already gotten to that point, and I think he understands that. But these are the races that really give him a chance to showcase his skills at this track, especially in the next-gen era. It seems like the RFK Fords and Brad Keselowski especially has been very good at Talladega and this style of a track. So for him to be knocked out before the stage even ends, can't even get stage points, it just seems like anything that can go wrong will for the 6 team. And for Ryan Blaney, just frustrating. Again, he's a contender at this track normally. And then on the restart from that, with 9 to go in the stage, Denny Hamlin pushes Christopher Bell coming out of turn 2, and Christopher Bell's car did not like that push, goes violently into the backstretch interior wall, takes Chris Buescher with him. Bell slams into that part that kind of juts out of the track. He was okay, but just a nasty, nasty hit. Chris Buescher, another RFK car, taken out as well with speed, but again, glad to see Chris Bell okay. That was it as far as incident was. Although the John Hunter Nemechek spin coming out of the pits for the weepers that NASCAR didn't want to throw the caution on to mess the pit cycle. Of course, why not? I don't have the energy to go on a tangent about that, but that should have been a caution. What are we doing here? Anyway, that was the negative part. On the good side for Toyota, Ty Gibbs did lead his first few laps of the year. I believe it was 32 laps all said and done as he was leading that Toyota parade in stage 2. Trending in the right direction, that 54 team. So glad to see that. And that was the positive. I did some positive after some negative. Let's get back into the negative, because I think part of the reason I'm so kind of soured on this finisher, not even soured, just left a little just confused at how to feel is the last 15 green flag laps at Talladega on main network Fox. We had two different side-by-side commercials, both with 15 to go and with 9 to go that lasted all the way up until 5 to go. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable. I'm not sure what the workaround is this for Fox, but when you get into those money laps, people are tuning in to watch those, not to watch side-by-side Keystone Light commercials, Masked Singer commercials side by side with 6 laps to go in the Talladega 500. I know we were parading Artie Kepner around for his service with Fox and NASCAR the last 25, 30 years. And I do appreciate Artie for what he's done, but it's time to get new blood in. And today was another perfect example. Do you remember that part in stage 2 when they cut sharply to commercial break, when they were asking Larry Mack about strategy, and all of a sudden it cut to is the big one coming package, and then it cut straight to commercial while Larry Mack was talking about strategy. The clunkiness of the broadcast is just hard to get into for a diehard fan. So I can't even imagine people that are just tuning in because, they like Talladega and they watch maybe a handful of races a year. Fox just does a disservice, and we're almost out of it. At least we're so close to the Amazon Prime era in NASCAR. We're so close. Hang on, folks. Just a few more weeks, I promise. And finally, let's get into just the finishing order here. We've got, of course, Cindric, Priest, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Joey Logano. Kyle Larson, 3rd place. Joey Logano basically pushing Larson and subsequently his teammate Austin Cindric to victory. Joey Logano did not want to push Kyle Larson. But on the other hand, William Byron was pushing Ryan Preece in the Ford RFK. So Hendrick Motorsports was going to have to push a Ford one way or the other because nobody wanted to make a move on this final lap. Nobody wanted to get out of order. I know Ty Dillon got pushed out of order late on the top row, and that kind of messed up the momentum for them. But nobody wanted to take a risk, and maybe everyone was okay with the finishing order because you've got Logano 5th, like I said, Gragson, Elliott, Hocevar, Bowman, Bubba Wallace to round out the top 10. Carson Osfar getting it home in one piece. Big for the Spire team. Zane Smith with the pole this weekend for his first career pole. 21st finish. Not bad overall. I think he'll take it, all things considered, just building off of that with front row. Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin, Riley Herbst, Ty Dillon, AJ Allmendinger, Justin Haley, Josh Berry, Kyle Busch, Anthony Alfredo, 30th. Kyle Busch, 29th. I mentioned him getting caught up in that spin early in with Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney. He was able to work his way back up to the top 10 and then had that speeding penalty late in the race that ended up, costing him with Josh Berry and ultimately deciding the race there. Kyle Busch, this was more of a 2024 type race, and with all the hope, I think, coming in this weekend with him starting on outside pole on the front row. Just another weekend where we're wondering, when is that 8 going to get back into victory lane? And Anthony Alfredo leading over 30 laps for Beard Motorsports in that single employee operation team. Great story for him. 31st, Shane Van Gisbergen, John Hernimacek, Cody Ware, who actually did have a very, very good run today until that late speeding penalty for the 51 team. Credit to Rick Ware Racing and Cody Ware. A very, very smartly run race for him. JJ Ely, BJ McLeod, Chris Buescher, Christopher Bell, Brad Keselowski, and Ryan Blaney rounding out your 39-car field. Let me know your thoughts down below about what you thought about Talladega today. We've got Texas next weekend, and potentially Texas will put on a better race than Talladega. What a world we live in 2025. But if you like what you saw, make sure to like this video. Subscribe to the Breaking Bob channel for more NASCAR content. We're always talking NASCAR and racing on this channel. Get into the discourse. Let me know what your thoughts are below about Talladega today. I'll be back for more news that I'm sure will drop this weekend because this world never sleeps. 27 more weeks to go in the NASCAR season. 27 consecutive weeks to go. I'll see you for every single one of them. Stay tuned for more.